Hello, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Reminiscences. Our guest today is retired General Martin Luther Agwai, who was the best graduating student in Nigerian Defence Academy in 1972, from where he rose to become the Chief of Army Staff in 2003 and the Chief of Defense Staff in 2006. He also led one of the largest peacekeeping missions in Sudan, in Darfur, in 2009, from where he returned home and I think retired from the armed forces. Welcome to the program. And normally we start with asking about your early life.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. My early life is quite an interesting life. When I was the one I know before I became conscious to know what life is all about, I was born during the days my father was in the Teachers Training College in 1948, November, in Kaguru, when he was in the then called Sudan Interior Mission Training College in Kaguru. My immediate elder sister was also born in Kaguru when he was in that, because it was a 4-year course. And incidentally, what really bothers me when I was growing up was my name. I really didn't like the name.
Which one? Luther?
Martin Luther.
Because
like actually, that was the name I was given officially by my father. Is Martin Luther.
A famous reformist cleric,
yes,
from Germany, right?
Yes. So when I was growing up, I didn't have, some of my peers had native Ham or Java name. I didn't have one. Some have names from the Bible because we are predominantly Christian in that domain. I didn't have a Christian name. I found a name, Martin Luther. And I didn't understand what the name stands for. And because I can't define it, I honestly didn't like the name.
Did you ask why you were named that way?
So it later part, when I went, when you go to school, they will now ask you your name. And I told them I'm Martin Agwai. I got home, my father said, no, my full name is Martin Luther. I said, okay, what is that? Why am I given that name? So it was from there I knew. He said that they were studying the history of Martin Luther, the reformer, or the Protestant, whichever name it.
He was studying in school then?
In school.
Yes.
In Kagoro.
So that inspired him too.
That inspired him. So he had a male son and he decided to give him the name of Martin Luther. Still, I was not very satisfied until when I grew up older. And it was only after I went to secondary school that I included back, though in my birth certificate and everything is Martin Luther. I just keep saying Martin Agwai. I removed the Luther. It was only when I went to secondary school in 1963 in Zaria that we started hearing about Martin Luther King.
The
American.
You became reconciled.
And now reconciled with my name and I accepted my name, the official name, Martin Luther Agwai. And that's the name I've started bearing till today. Yeah, because I then found out that the two, even if it's coincidence or anything, they have maybe at the end influenced me in what I think about living with people.
What led you into the army after your secondary school in Zaria? What was the link?
Well, two things. One, it started before even going to secondary school. Well, my father was a policeman. He joined the police when I was 3 years old. So I've actually grew up in the police barrack. And in sports, the police were always doing better than prison when it comes to football and this. So we all wanted to go to the police as we were growing up. I grew up a sportsman, participated in so many games. When I was in my primary, secondary school, and even up to middle rank in the army before I stopped active sports again. For example, I got to know Brigadier General Yaradua from when he was a lieutenant major at the hockey pitch. We played together and we ended up playing for Nigerian team together with him. That's how I even got to know him through sports. So because the police were better, I wanted to go to the police. And then towards the end of my primary education, the army used to come to Bukuru near Jos for camping. You know, that time they used, in the north, they call it Rawandaji. They come there for camping and exercises. And then they played football against the police. And the army beat the police. So the idea of going to police started dying away. Now we wanted to go into the army. Then I went to I went to Provincial Secondary Schools area. I was in that school when the name was changed to Government Secondary Schools area. And today it is Al Huda Huda College in Zaria City. So when I got to Zaria, in my first year, I joined the Boy Scout. Then in our second year, they brought the cadet training. And we had officers coming from NMS, Nigerian Military School in Zaria, to us to teach us minor tactics of the military. And we had the rifles. We even go to range to fire. We used to go to camp. So I enjoyed it and I joined. Then when I was in 65, when we were from 3, there was a policy in the school that you can't be a Boy Scout and a cadet. You have to take one in the extracurricular activities. I was doing fine in Boy Scouts and I loved the army. But at the end, I don't know, I made up my mind, no, I'd rather take the Boy Scout. So I dropped being a cadet. So I continued as a Boy Scout. And incidentally, in 1966, I was selected to represent Northern Nigeria in the Boy Scout Jamboree in Scotland in 1966. My going to Scotland, a wonderful thing. We sail by sea from Apapa. We stopped over in Abidjan for 4 days. It was then I knew, as far back in 1966, the number of Nigerians in Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast. I remember having a haircut in Abidjan from a Nigerian with Yoruba tribal marks on his face. So we spent 4 days. On the 5th day, we left Abidjan and we sailed to then Bathurst, now Banjul, the capital of Gambia. And then from there, we went to Dakar, Senegal. From Senegal, we sailed to Belfast. And I remember another incident that year. The Queen came visiting in Belfast and she was stoned in 1966. That incident, that was the 2 days after we arrived in Belfast. Then from Belfast, we ended our journey in Glasgow. And that was the end of the trip. And incidentally, it was a cargo ship. That is why we made those stops. We were taken as part of the crew because that was the assistant the palm line that time was called, that gave to the Nigerian Boy Scout to take us free there and feed us and everything. But in the good aspect, our ship enjoyed us because when they stop in those harbors for days, they have football matches with other ships. And because we were registered as part of the ship, we play football for them. And throughout all the competition in the road up to when we went to Belfast, we never lost a match. We won, we drew one, and all the rest were winning. So they were very happy that we helped them to win their matches. So we went to Glasgow. And that trip, it took us over a month to reach Glasgow from Lagos. So I was in Form 4 in 1966. I lost the whole of third term and part of second term in Form 4. And that really had a big effect on my growth and my academic life.
So you spent 3 months or 4 months
4 months.
Altogether?
Altogether, yeah. To and fro.
Yes.
Because on our way back, after we finished from Glasgow, we went to Berkshire and Blair Athol, which I visited with my family years after to see the place. From Blair Athol, we came by train. And that trip also was another unique trip. The day we landed in London, that was the morning we woke up and they said the head of state of Nigeria have disappeared. He cannot be found, Agwai Ironsi. That was the day there was the issue of the counter coup.
Okay.
July.
So 67?
66.
66.
66. The civil war started.
July,
yes. July. This very month. So that was the night, we were in the train. We arrived London in the morning and we went to Nigerian High Commission and there was nobody in the High Commission.
So that exposure, did you have a sense that it impacted on your life besides missing the school? Is that a positive side to it?
Oh, that was very positive. Number one, I always want to go on the funny side. Here am I didn't know what they say, autographing something. We had international sports. And in 200 meters, I won, I was number one. I was number one.
In the Scouts?
In the Scouts.
In Scotland?
In the camp in Scotland, because we were divided into contingents, and each contingent were grouped to form a camp. So in our camp, I represented our camp in 200 meters. I was better in 200 because I was not very good in starting. That has always been my problem.
So you can recover.
To recover in 100 meters. But in 200, you can recover.
Yeah.
So in the 100 meters, I was third. But in the 200 meters, I was first. And here children from the stadium, everybody coming, bringing paper. I didn't know. So they were told that you need to sign your name or this. So it was quite an interesting experience. And it was the first, it started exposing me because when we were going, I kept wondering, who does the menial labor job in Europe or in UK? When we see here, all the white people that were there, they are staying in big houses in GRA. We have cooks and people washing their cars and everything. I was wondering, who does that? Or do they carry black people to go and do that? My first shock was I saw a white man washing a train in London. Train in the train station.
Yes.
When the train has arrived, they're cleaning and washing it. I said, so white people also do.
They can clean.
So, and then in our stay also, we stayed with families. Before we left, we were told etiquette, what to do, how to eat, how to hold cutleries and everything. So when we stayed with the Scottish family in the farm. And another surprise was we went out for grocery shopping with them. And when we finished, the man will walk around to come and open the door for his wife. And she will enter, then he will walk around to come to the driver's seat and then drive. So when we finished the shopping, we bought things and come back to the house. And all he went around, opened the door. The wife carried her bag and this and walked into the house. And he went to the boot and started carrying all the things, and I helped him. And I said, what is this? If it's Nigeria, my mother would be the one doing this, not my father. So I started seeing the difference in culture. And that is the same year again, we enjoyed watching television, because that was the year England won the World Cup. We were in Scotland watching, we watched the match live on the television.
Have you watched television before this time?
I only heard about television, that there was something like that, but I never watched one until when we got to Belfast. It was when we went to Belfast that I first saw a television in my life. But incidentally, when I came back home in '66, we had a television in the school. So all of us would gather to watch a television, but from Western Nigerian Broadcasting Service. Before later we have the radio television in Kaduna, in our final year in secondary school. So,
great experience.
Great experience. It was a wonderful experience.
But then you lost time in school. So how did that affect your career?
Okay, you see, when we got into secondary school, after the first 2 years, going to Form 3, we now had exam by merit, and they separated those who they felt will be science students and those that will be art students, and somewhere in between. So in the exam, we were 2 stream. We were 62 in our class, the 2 stream. So the best 31 were taken to A, and the 32 downward were taken to B. I was lucky to be in the A class. And we started biology. And we were in biology less than 3 weeks after I left to Scotland. At the time I came back, I found out in physics they have gone too far. In biology, completely I was lost, because I had only introduction to biology when I left. So I came and we had nobody to mentor or career guidance or counseling, nothing. So on my own, I sat down. Here we are, I have only few weeks. We finished from the year in December, because I got back in late October. Late October, I started classes in November. And here am I now going to Form 5, preparing for mock. I didn't know where to. So on my own, since nobody to advise me, I decided to do what I thought was the best. I now dropped biology and went to do government. I did not do English literature, but I did English language. I dropped physics, but I did chemistry and maths. And what did I drop again? And I took woodwork in place. So I ended up with a combination, and I thought, nobody told me that there is combination to go to HSC. Nobody told me. I was of the feeling that if you can just pass and make a good grade, you go to HSC and go to university. So I ended up with Division 2 in the mock with aggregate 24. Almost getting grade 1. But I didn't go to HSC.
No combination.
I have no combination. It was only then I realized that there's something called combination. And I had no combination. So it became a big challenge for me the rest of my life because now I am not going to HSC, so the chances of going to university is virtually close unless I will go through another means. So then the Civil War came in 1967, and jobs were abundant for us. You have to select which job you want because the movement, the exodus of people from the Southeast in particular, created so many openings. I was now asked to go to MPA, Nigerian Port Authority, in Lagos. And for my parents said never. So that is how I ended up with the North Central State Ministry of Land and Country Planning Survey Division. I went to survey. And from there, I went to School of Survey in Oyo. And before then, I forgot to tell the military question you asked me. I now applied to go to NDA in 1967. So 68, I wrote the exam, and I was passed, and I was to go for interview. I was already in Oyo. The letter of invitation for interview came because I didn't have a fixed address, so I gave my parents' address in Jos. And incidentally, at that time, you know, with the Civil War, when the military liberated towns, they bring the police to maintain law and order. So my father was now, after the liberation of Nsukka, my father was taken to Nsukka. So my father was not home. My mother saw the letter and said her husband is not there. And her son wants to go to join the army during Civil War. No way. So they hid the letter. I didn't even see the letter. I did the basic course in surveying in Oyo. We were about 3 of us from North Central. Then there were another 3 or 4 from Northwest. And then we had our seniors, incidentally, 2 of them from Benue Plateau, who have actually done the basic course and have gone to work in Benue Plateau and are back to the school to do advanced course. So they were of great help to us. After we finished the course in the school also, I don't know whether they have broken my record in 200 meters in the school. Yeah, I don't know. But so many years after I went to that school, my record was still unbroken.
How long was the program?
1 year. Okay. It was just an academic year, 1 year.
So how did the transition from survey, from the ministry to the army happen? It did happen, you know, since you ended up as a general.
Yeah, so that is the most interesting thing. If you see the book written by my daughter, the title is How a Congress of Baboons Made a General. That's
Congress of Baboons.
But Congress of Baboons made a general. And she got that title from the story I told them they are growing up. So when I came back to Kaduna, I started survey. And all the survey I did were mining survey. And Godo site. Then the North Central had a border with Kano, old Kano and old North Central, around Riroy.
Yes.
And there were some mining activities in that area. So we went for a mining survey. And the trick point that you have for Aximuth, they call it, the trick point has fallen. So we had to climb there to insert the trick point for us to now finish our job and tie it there to now have an accurate job on the map. So we went up. On our way coming back, we went into a Congress of Baboons.
Is it a mountain?
Yeah, it's a hill. Well,
like a hill.
But it's really is one of the high grounds. And if you go really in that area, there are general hills, a chain of hills. And the trick point is always one of the highest.
Right.
So it was one of the highest hills around there.
Yeah.
So we went there. On our way back, we ran into a congress of baboons. There were honestly over 100. With the babies, carrying babies, this. I was scared. And I was the leader. Because I was yes. So we had one elderly chain man, Malan Sani. I will never forget his name. His picture is even in that book my daughter wrote. Malan Sani, when he saw us fright, said, "Oh, as long as we don't panic and we don't do anything, nothing will happen." So we braced up and we kept walking on around the bush path. And they were on our both sides. We kept following. So as we moved, they moved. So we kept going over 1 kilometer. There were baboons on both sides. And at the end, at one point they stopped. They were not following us any longer. We kept going. We turned back. They were not there. I said, yeah. So when I got back to Kaduna from that job, I now apply to one Divria. I want to join the army as a recruit. I applied to join the army as a recruit. And I said, if I go, I will at least, or they will train me, I'll have a gun. I will know how to use it and I can defend myself.
You don't want to meet
baboons again. So honestly, that is the real turning point that triggered me to go back to, wanting to go back to the military.
But you did very well in the NDA. You were the best graduating student. And I've interviewed many soldiers.
Yeah.
They tend to look bigger than you. I don't know how did you really become such an outstanding officer?
The first exam we had in NDA, I was so scared. Then we had military and civil subjects, and there were 18 subjects in all. So after you finish the exam, they compile, you go and see your company commander, he will give you a feedback and everything. So the company commander was an Indian. That time the Indians were still in NDA, one Major Jane. So he called people. The time it would turn to my turn, I was scared. I said, how did I feature in this exam? As I sat down, he said, congratulations, Cadet Agwai. Congratulations. I said, thank you, sir. He said, you are the only cadet in my company that passed all their military and academic subjects. Congratulations. Then overall, in my company, I was the third. And in the class, we were 64. In the class, I was 9th. That now gave me confidence that yes, I can make it. And that is when I now devoted my time, my energy to my training. I had no job when I went to India. I left, I applied to the police inspector. I was invited, I went to Police College Kaduna. Less than a month, the result of NDA came and they said, I'm called for interview, and the interview was 2 weeks. I applied to exempt me to go for the interview. They said, the result I got, the reply I got, I either go and leave police college or don't go and remain in police college.
You have to choose.
So I chose going for the interview. That was on a Friday. On Sundays, Sunday New Nigeria publicly came up with the names on the list, and there were almost 700 names, and they said they were only taking 60.
The police?
No, NDA. And I've already left police college because I said I will leave. I left, handed everything back to them because I was there for less than a month. I say, am I not being penny-wise? Am I not leaving a bird at hand and chasing another in the bush? I then went. So when I got through NDA, and I said, well, I have pushed myself. Oh, I gave it my best. And the second term exam, I found I was first in the order of merit, both in my company and in the class. So, and then, you know, there's one thing about success is another challenge. How do you live to that reputation?
But you became the best graduating student. How was the physical side? I mean, academically, I could see you made up. Physically, were you able to cope with bigger boys and all that?
Well, no, but the good thing, frankly speaking, again, my childhood helped me. What I didn't tell you is that I never attended primary. I never finished primary one in my life. In 1955, I started primary one in NA School, Jos. In April, my father was transferred from Jos to Kafanchan. So I followed him to Kafanchan. I didn't continue with my primary. In my second year, so I stayed 1955 at home. 1956, that was the year the Queen came to Nigeria. I went back to primary one in Kafanchan. In July, end of July, my father was transferred back to Jos. So I didn't finish primary one. So in December 1956, my father went home on leave and decided to leave me with his grandmother, with his mother. That's my grandmother, to stay in the village. And I hated my parents. And I said, how did they hate me this much?
But you went through the ranks, as usual, did many things. I think one of the more unique things I see from your CV is this foreign engagements, you know, these diplomatic assignments. First one in Harare as the defense advisor. Did you enjoy those kind of postings beside the usual military postings at home?
Well, thank you. You see, those type of postings were unique in the sense that it exposes you to that side of the military. And that is why I think I would digress a bit to say that we in this country need to now start studying military diplomacy as a subject or as a discipline. Because it's not just the diplomatic way of diplomats doing their thing in the public service and other areas. Just as we have commercial diplomacy, we should have military diplomacy. It helps us to understand the full picture, especially in the world that we're in today, that security is not what we were defining security 20, 30 years ago. Security is everything, because if you do not governance issue can become a security issue. Food insecurity can create a security challenge for people, and on and on. So it's very important to me. Then, having said that, I said I was very lucky. Having grown up, and one of my instructors in NDA who took liking of me and who became my mentor till today, Jana Ibrahim Babangida. He was a major, we were cadet. He was my instructor. And after I left NDA, he encouraged me to join the Reki Corps, which became the Armored Corps later in Nigeria. Under his, I would say, mentoring and encouragement, I found out that I was able to get exposed to so many things. One of them, I worked briefly as his military assistant, and I worked as a staff officer under him and other people.
As Chief of Army Staff?
Yes. But before then, I worked with him when he was Commander Armored Corps.
Okay.
And then that gives me opportunity to work with the former Chief of Army Staff, late General Salih Ibrahim. I was able to end up working with late General Wushishi. And I started beginning to see what policy, what intrigues, what the military is all about at a higher operational level and strategic level. And that helped me. So when I had the opportunity of going to Harare, and incidentally I was covering the whole of southern region. I had concurrent accreditation to Zambia, Angola, Mozambique, Lesotho, Namibia, Tanzania, Swazi, what do they call it?
Swaziland.
Yes, Swaziland. Now they have their new name.
Okay.
Yeah, I was accredited to all those countries, and that kept me moving, and that gave me opportunity to meet with people, but also to meet some of my old friends that we have trained. I met my Zambian course mate in Staff College in Kambali, the Army Staff College in Kambali. I met my Botswana course mate in the Staff College. I met my Kenyan course mate in Staff College, and my Malawian course mate in Staff College. So it gave me an opportunity to reunite with our old friends and knowing them and being where they are. And at that time, they were middle rank. Some of them were brigadier general. One of them was a major general already. And that helped me in my job. And that also helped us to create some exchange program between Nigeria and their country, particularly Botswana. Botswana started sending some officers to NDA, and that was it was an interesting thing, and I enjoy Zimbabwe.
Tell us about this big international assignment in Darfur. Its record is one of the largest. It's an African United Nations peacekeeping mission.
Yeah.
How challenging was that?
Well, I would say actually every military peacekeeping mission is challenging, because what most people don't realize is that there is a wall of difference of peace enforcement or war with peacekeeping. You are taught, and every young man that have gone to military training, he's taught shoot to kill. But when you get to peacekeeping, you are told to use the minimum force. Minimum force. So even when the people spit on your face, you should take it. So this is the challenge now. A young man, 18 years, have joined the military, and you have taught him shoot to kill. Then you are now telling him to go to Darfur, Sierra Leone, Liberia, or somewhere as a peacekeeper. And he should use minimum force and should not fire. That is the challenge. You have to now reorient that young person. You now have to retrain him in the new things you want him to do. So that is the challenge that we have. Nigeria has been involved in peacekeeping. I was looking forward to going into Lebanon. Even during Nigeria, when Namibia was to become independent, Nigeria was planning a contingent to go. I was made in charge of the manuals and the training program and everything for Nigerians to go to Namibia. It didn't happen.
What's the attraction for going for military peacekeeping?
It opens you to meet people from different parts of the world. When I was in Darfur, at the end of the height of my stay, we had soldiers, officers, and people, man of the civilian, military. And military from 48 countries in this world. You can imagine that gathering. You will acquire a lot of experience. You exchange views. You understand what they do in their own type of training and what makes them unique. You can even gauge your own standard of training with what you see from other countries. So it's a thing that exposes you to real military training. And it's also, though peacekeeping, you have to operate as you are in a war zone because you don't know where the problem is coming from. 2, it gives you a practical, real practical way of operating your military thing. What we have during peace at home is what we call tactical exercise without troops, or sometimes you do train with blank ammunition. But this one you have to is a real thing. So it actually helped you to have a real next to a battle experience.
And I think the pay was good also in the working conditions.
Most of you are not being paid, but you have allowances. So the allowances were good, and so it enhanced you. You want to go, minus the professional aspect of it, even the economic aspect.
Yeah.
Even for a nation, if you know how to handle your peacekeeping operation, you make a lot of money, because the UN is hiring your equipment, and there is a rate they pay. But again, your equipment has to be operational and serviceable 24/7 for you to be able to get those money.
I think it's fair to say that for most soldiers or officers, being the chief of army staff is the epitome, is the dream.
Yeah.
How did that happen to you?
On a lighter note, when we got into NDA, we were told that every one of us have this cane. The one the soldiers carry, the officers carry, the cane. That every one of us have a chief of army staff cane in his kit bag. If you know how to go around and look for it properly and maintain it in your kit bag, at the end of the day, you will have it. If you don't, you will never get it. So maybe I was lucky to look at it properly.
How do you navigate the politics? Because it's a political appointment. At the end of the day. Yes.
But I will also say, it was also at that time, it's not only political, it's also professional. You have to measure up. And then, yes, there are those who couldn't balance the two. They are professionally super, but diplomatically and politically out of. But remember, even in our training, geopolitics is part of our training. So if you are lucky to balance the two, and I would say with all sincerity, I have always said, if I'm going to write my autobiography myself, maybe I'm trying to look at a title, the luckiest officer Nigerian Army has ever produced. I think I've been one of the luckiest. I'm not saying God, in His infinite mercy, have helped me. I've been able to cope up and measure up professionally. But I'm still very lucky, maybe being at the right time, at the right place, at the right time. When the whole world was looking for a hybrid force commander, they remember what I did in Sierra Leone. It's not Nigeria that gave my name, that wanted me to go to Darfur. It's the UN that requested and pressurized Nigeria to release me. And that is why I'm the first officer of 4-star to go to command a UN mission. Because I told them, nobody of the highest has been 3-star. Do you want me to drop one of my stars because I want to serve UN? No. That was how I got in there. And frankly, what happened in Sierra Leone was not out of it. When I was the deputy force commander in Sierra Leone, there were things that happened which people thought it was not possible. Do you know that a Nigerian battalion was co-located with the headquarters of RUF in Makeni in Sierra Leone?
RUF is the rebel movement.
The rebel movement. Revolutionary United Front. Our headquarters. I had meetings. They started looking for me, sending me notes and everything. And we played the game. May his soul rest in peace, our special representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Adeniji Olu Adeniji. Olu Adeniji. I learned a lot from that man. We played, when we found what they are rebels, clearly they told me, in writing, the only contingent they are rebels fear are Nigerian soldiers. So if Nigerians are not to come to Makeni, any contingent that come will not stay. And when we finish the plan, the concept of operation, I passed it to my boss. I left. They changed it and asked Bangladesh to move to Makeni. Bangladeshis that went to Makeni from Mabruka, which is less than 30 kilometers, they had to go for 100 and something kilometers to go back to their location because they were blocked not to go back to that road by the rebels. So, we were able to disarm in Kono the diamond area, producing area. That is the area everybody believed that the rebels will not give up without a fight. In 30 days, I was able to disarm over 5,000 of RUF and government militia, because at that time the armed forces had been dissolved in Sierra Leone. So they had militias. The government militias and the RUF, in 30 days, we disarmed over 5,000 of them. And the disarmament was thorough. And I can tell you why I said, and everybody in the world knew it was thorough. Because after the Civil War, when they have signed the peace agreement, there was election, late Tijan Kabal came back as the president. And in between 2-3 months down the line, there was a fight in the diamond area. And they went back into their old camp. The RUF and the Kamajos and the RUF.
These are the militias?
Yes, the militias. They went in to fight in the diamond area. No gun, even local made then gun, none of them was fired because they didn't have them, because they have already been disarmed both sides.
Were these missions dangerous for you?
I never wore a flak jacket because I felt, for some good reason, for some lucky reason, I got on with both sides because I had never became partial. Whether in the meeting with the UN or with the body or with my superiors, tell them, if people have grievances, better listen. Understand them from where they are coming. You do not, and this is why we have problems all over the world in peacekeeping. You want to impose your will on people. You don't ask people what do they want. You don't ask them why are you rebelling. You don't ask them why are you fighting. No. You want to dictate to them this is what you should do. And in the process, you don't solve the problem.
So after this mission in Darfur, you retired, effectively?
Yes.
In 2009.
Yeah.
This is 15 years.
Yep.
What have you been doing since then?
I have a farm. I've started looking for a farm. I'll go to farming and stay there.
But I'm just thinking that maybe isn't the security situation getting out of hand? I mean, from the point of view of a civilian.
Yeah.
Some of this insurgency, Boko Haram, now the banditry, seems to be, I mean, there are states where several local governments are under control of bandits.
Yes.
As a general, I mean, look at it. I mean, do you really think we're capable of dealing with this issue? And if so, how?
Yeah.
Are you consulted, for example, on these U.S. retired generals?
Well,
does the government look for your help in these things?
Well, you see, there are so many generals in Nigeria.
So in other words, You are still waiting to be called to help.
Well,
That's
well, if you want to put it that way, yes, I wouldn't mind. But I have said there is no, with all sense of humility, there is no government in Nigeria since I retired in 2009 that has ever approached me or to say, what is your view?
Do you think we can dialogue with the bandits now?
Some are negotiating. I am very selective in my words, and I'm saying no. I've always said, if you negotiate, you will be in problem.
Are you worried about the survival of the country?
If I say I'm not worried, I'm deceiving you and deceiving myself. The fact that you and I cannot beat our chest and say I can go to any part of Nigeria at any hour and time I want to go is enough a thing to be worried. The fact that people can walk into individual homes and pick people and go with them and negotiate for days and nothing happened. And some, even when the ransom is paid, they are still being killed. It's a thing to be worried. The fact that our school children, young children who we believe that they are leaders of tomorrow, are being subjected to issue of kidnapping and held against their wish. And at the end, they are released with the trauma and everything. You think it's not a big thing? It is. Because if this is what your society have lived in brutalization, then brutalizing another person is not a problem any longer. It becomes a norm. And my fear and my concern is that we are gradually moving to that level, that bandits will take over. I wrote my research, go to Nigerian Defence College when I was a student. I don't know, for some reason, the topic I wrote on was how irregular forces are taken over from regular forces. A lesson for Nigeria.
What is the answer?
What makes it to go high? What is it? What is about power? It's about resources. If you you include people in decision making.
The lucrative nature.
Yes. And if we stop the politics of winner takes all, we will not. This is the same thing that happened in Rwanda that brought the genocide. This is how Mengistu got lost power in Ethiopia. This is what happened to Do in Liberia. We went to Liberia.
Have you ever thought of going into politics yourself to deal with these issues?
I wish I were 20 years younger.
No, but you never, after retirement, many generals have tried.
No, okay, I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
Been a professional soldier all my life.
4-star general.
Yeah, so that was my last.
You don't think a military takeover is an option?
No. Because the only thing the military is good at is a temporary thing. But for prolonged planning and everything, it's not the training of the military.
Tell us about General Agwai, the family man.
Well, I'm so lucky that I got married to a young lady then who understood me and who was willing to help me and who took charge of the home front.
The home front?
Yes. And gave me that free will to maneuver, to do my military training, to go on assignment without really thinking too much home. because I found she was solid enough to bring up the children. And I found we remained in contact communication, and she became really, two women have been very special to me in my life, my mother and my wife. They are really my rock. They have, my mother gave me all the encouragement.
What of children? What have?
I have, and then, I think God is wonderful. He's wonderful because He gave us 3 beautiful daughters. I don't have a son. Maybe, sometimes I keep saying, the only time we're going to have a son, something happened. And my wife had a miscarriage. She went on, she became very sick, she almost died. And I said, if having a son means my wife dying, I will not. So I have closed that chapter. I have 3 wonderful, beautiful daughters. And my wife has been so good in bringing them up to my standard and to our standard. They are wonderful.
What do you do now in your spare time? You are not farming.
Because I've lost my farm. My cows were taken away.
Okay, so you're sitting in Abuja, dreaming of farming, but you're not farming. So what do you do? How do you spend your time? I
spend my time, funny enough, one of them, the chairman of Leadway Insurance.
Yes, you're in business.
Yeah, so, I, with all pride, I'm so proud that I'm on that team.
Yes.
One of the best insurance company in Nigeria, and maybe in some parts of Africa, because we have gone beyond Nigeria.
Yeah.
I am a visiting professor in King's College London.
Right. Do you go often?
I go. I went to Kenya with the King's College during the beginning of Kenyan crisis on this very last one.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you've got a lesson or two for us from Kenya.
So I have, so there are lots of little things.
But what are personal hobbies?
Oh.
Do you still run?
In my 70s it's difficult, but I do a lot of exercises to keep fit. On the average, every day on the average, I trek, I would do walk around for about 10 kilometers every day.
Wow.
I do some aerobics, and then I also do some activities with young people in the church. And ethnicity is not my problem at all. Issue of religion is not my problem, because one, I did not decide to be born in where I was born. And if I believe that there is a supreme being that in his wisdom said that is where I'm going to come from, who am I quarreling with? And religion is between me and my God. And I've read about several religions in the world. And most of them said you are going to be accountable, not us.
I think, General, I must thank you for this very engaging conversation and wish you many more years of service to our country. And viewers, thank you very much for staying with us in this interview with General Martin Luther Agwai, who is still going strong at 76, I think. And until we meet in another episode of this program, thank you and goodbye.